How to convert more leads without spending more money on advertising? That's the question. And until you actually figure this answer out, you will struggle. Okay, I have one prediction for your future if you cannot figure this equation out right here, which is pain. Okay? And the pain is going to result not because you don't have leads, but because you are not maximizing the leads that you are getting. All right? So, what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to put you guys over here. What we're going to talk about, I'm gonna put you up here actually, is how to maximize leads, okay? So what's happening is you're treating your coldest leads like hot garbage. You're not talking to them. If they don't answer the phone one time, you're disengaging with them. You know, you're kind of just like resentful of these people. Because in your mind, when a lead comes in, they're mutually exclusive. They're just for you and they're just for your business, right? That's the feeling we get when we first get into lead generation, us novices, right? The novices believe that the leads are mutually exclusive and that they're not for anybody else. And so I can tell you that what's happening is that you are just not acting appropriately to maximize your leads, and that's what we're gonna talk about in this video, all right? So what happens in lead generation, there's a few problems that nobody really talks about, all right? The first problem is that the cold leads, the ones that aren't answering the phone right away, they have a lower trust with your business, okay? They do not trust you guys quite yet. That doesn't mean they won't trust you, but they don't trust you right now, okay? The second is that, you know, with the colder leads, the team has to spend more time converting these individuals, okay? They have to spend more time converting the cold leads, which now you're thinking, well, it's like, okay, well, the cold leads have a lower trust. I gotta spend more time to convert them. The third problem is that many of the leads are just like not quite ready to take action, all right? And so like that's the group of people we're talking about today. The group of people that are in your business, they have become a lead, but you're not engaging with them, all right? So what you need to truly understand to kind of fix this mental gap that you have is you need to understand a concept that we call stadium selling, okay? Now stadium selling does not mean you're selling hot dogs. That's not what that means, okay? Stadium selling is the philosophy that was actually coined by a guy named Chet Holmes, and it really helps you like connect with more of your ideal prospects, all right? And so like if you don't learn this concept, you're gonna lose 30 to 40%, maybe even 50% of your leads that you get all the time, okay? Because you're only gonna focus on the ones that are ready to go, that are hot, that answer on the first ring, that kind of stuff. So we need to shift the mindset into like, how can we systematically engage with all of our leads? And how can we, over the course of time, bring everybody up? Like, how do we get them to the level where they are ready to take action? That's a better question, okay? It's not so much that the leads are cold. The better question is, how can I, as the owner or the operator or the marketing person in charge, whoever you are watching this video, how can you take ownership to ensure that majority of the leads over the course of time are able to deeply engage with your organization, okay? And that's where stadium selling comes in. Now, there's a concept. Stadium selling is from a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes, all right? And in the book, he breaks down kind of this percentage basis on where all of your leads are at in their journey, okay? Now, most of the leads are not ready to go right now. That's the catch. Okay, in fact, only about 3% of the leads that you get are ready to go right now. That means that without any sales presentation, like without any actual like nurture, they're gonna take all the necessary actions to do what you want them to do, which is show up and buy. They're gonna show to their appointments, they're gonna not flinch at the price, they're gonna pay with cash, right? That's 3%. Now, some of you act like that's 97%, and that's just not the case, and that's where you're getting a little bit frustrated with the process because you haven't rewired your brain quite yet, okay? So 3% are ready to go right now, okay? Those are your lay down sales, okay? 7% are open to taking action and buying soon, okay? So they're open, and they're real there, they're close. They just need to be shown something valid. They need to be given, you know, promises, packages. They need to be given a route to solve their challenge, okay? And those are also very warm leads, to be clear. These are not cold leads. The 7% is they're warm, very warm, okay? More than Luke, they're very warm, okay? Not quite as hot to where they can, you know, they'll show up and buy whatever, but they're real close, okay? So that initial 10%, the 3% that's hot right now that's going to buy anything, and then one that's ready to buy soon, that's 7%, 10% of your leads are like real warm, dudes, real warm, okay? Now, the bigger percentages, and this is where it gets fun because the bigger percentages come later. So we talked about the initial 10%, but what about the other 90%? That's what we want to focus on right now, the other 90%, okay? So 30% are not interested quite yet, okay? They're aware of it, but they just don't feel like they're interested fully in what the offering is quite yet. Okay, that's another 30%. Another 30% is unaware of the problem entirely. Okay, so they're just like not really like even concerned with what's going on, or if they are concerned, they're not deeply aware of like true understanding of like this is what my problem is, right? And then 30% just think they don't need it in general. Okay, they might not have it, and they might not need it, or they might need to be shown that they do have a problem that they're not thinking about as well. Okay, so like the 30%, the other 90%, excuse me, is where all the money is. Okay, so because if you can only capitalize on 1 in 10 leads, that 10% that's easy to get, again, you're gonna have a hard time with scale. You really are, because you're not nurturing the other people, okay? So from an advertising perspective, like this matters because the one rule of ads is that whoever can spend the most money on advertising wins long term. That's the rule, okay? So if you have a business, and based on your math, you say that, hey, I can spend $1,000 to acquire a customer. And the other guy says, hey man, I can spend $3,000 to acquire a customer. He's gonna beat you every time, okay? So what this does is it allows you to spend more to acquire customers because you can convert more of your dollars, okay? So you can actually capitalize and monetize a massive percentage of the leads that are typically getting dropped, okay? So what can we do from a really like a systematic standpoint, more or less, to not only engage with these leads, but systematically engage with them? And we call that incubation, okay? Incubation is like a holding tank for your leads. Think about it as like, something to where like, hey, like just because you're not ready doesn't mean we're not gonna engage. In fact, we're gonna put you in this tank and then we're gonna water and nurture the tank over time. We call that the incubator, okay? So the goal is not to like, convert everybody in the incubator today. The goal is that with enough timing, relevance, authority, and just consistency within the incubation, every single lead at some point or another will transition to that 10%, okay? Some of them will do it faster, some of them will do it slower. Okay, so over the course of a long period of time, you will have leads that are in that very low 30% where they don't even think they need your stuff, dude. And over time, they will convert, okay? Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, maybe not even next year. But when they're ready to choose a product or service similar to yours, they're gonna take action with you. And that's the goal. We can't force everyone to buy today, but what we can say is we can control the way we show up in your world. Okay, we can show up via email marketing, okay? Email marketing is a great incubation strategy. A lot of the guys that, guys and gals that are big wigs in the industry and like, within healthcare, within online commerce, like they email a lot. There's no denying it. They email a lot, okay? Grant Cardone, that guy emails 6-7 times a day, Does that mean he's wrong? Does that mean a bad thing to do? Not necessarily, because like he's just making offers to people, okay? He's just keeping his audience warm, right? Now, email, we'll talk about a little bit about this because this is like really probably one of the most high leverage things. Email is different than text. Text, you can only send so much, okay? Email, you can send a lot of times a day, 2, 3, 4 times a day if you want, at least once a day though, okay? Minimum standard would be once a day to your list, right? And you can send more, but again, it's just like if you try to do that once a day via text, you're just not gonna have a good result, okay? Because text is like a sacred place for people. Text is like, their family shows up there. It's pretty much guaranteed that they're gonna read that message in a pretty short duration of time, So you can't abuse text. So you wanna spend a lot of frequency email, okay? Once a day on email. And then I like to do maybe like a once a week or every other week on text, okay? Maximum once a month, okay? You gotta at least be doing text once a month, right? So what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to ultimately continue to nurture. Now, what do we like doing in email? Okay, email is a lot of value dense content, not fluff. Okay, things that people are going to get value from. Now, so if you're a healthcare practitioner, I want you to send out things that your patients could get value from, either physically or conceptually, independent of anything else. Okay, I'll say that again. Physically or conceptually, independent of them having a further relationship with you. Okay, so the goal is when you write an email, people should read the email and they should be able to then take action, again, mentally or physically on something, so that they can continue to get closer to you. So you are sending things in email that are, again, are value dense, meaning that they can take action on those ideas without pursuing a relationship with you. Now that's contradicting, because you're like, hey man, I want them to pursue a relationship with me. What's going on? Well, the person who provides the most value for free, long-term, will win in today's market. Okay. So when we write emails to like our prospective partners, like there are some emails that we write that we lay it all out. Like you could read the email, go and execute what we told you to do in the email, and you could immediately see upside as long as your execution was correct. Okay. That's how value dense we want to get. Because then when the free stuff is so dense with value, what happens next is people are like, man, like, what does this paid stuff look like? It's kind of like this channel where I share a lot. Oops, I gotta change you guys. I share a lot on YouTube. This is like 10%, maybe 15% at most of what we teach our paid clients. You know, like when we do our weekly mastermind call with our docs, like the stuff that we train on there, like the docs can like actionably take to their self and their team and just go to scale. Okay. So again, if you want to look at that, shameless plug, if you want to check out some of our paid programs just to see if we might possibly be able to help out, I'll leave a link below for you to have just a conversation with us. There's a few different programs that we have, to be clear. I'm not going to digress too much deep into them, but what I will say is, we've got one program where if you're doing 50,000 or above, you'd be qualified for. Another program, if you're between 20 and 50,000, you might make sense of. And then if you're below $20,000, we have a program called the Master Clinical Marketing Program. So again, like it really depends on where you're at in the journey in terms of how much we can share, but I'll leave a link below so you can have that conversation if you want. I mean, worst case scenario, we could, again, give you clarity on what you need to do inside of your practice right now, because that's like the whole goal of all this, right? And for you, is just, we want to be able to have a holding tank of value, right? And you want to share your best stuff in the email and text and your YouTube videos, but you can't share everything, right? So that's the same idea like we have on this channel, where it's like, I can't possibly share everything with you guys that we share with our paid clients. And it's the same when we send emails, right? It's an email, So like what happens over time for you and your patient base is like, they just develop this, like what's called a parasocial relationship with you. Parasocial means that you feel like you know the person, like, your favorite influencer online, stuff like that. Like you feel like you know them because you follow so much of their content, but they have no idea who you are. Okay, that's a parasocial relationship where you feel that connection, but you've never even had a conversation with that person. Okay, so by incubating correctly, you not only will make more money from your advertising dollars. You don't need to spend it anymore. You need a better incubation, but you will be able to show up in different areas of people's lives as well. You go from showing up on an ad to now I'm in your email all the time. I'm texting you, right? So that's how you develop that parasocial. And the whole goal of all this is just so that when the time is right, they think of you. That's the goal. Your goal isn't like, man, I'm going to convert everyone on my email list today. That's not the goal, man. Like that's not going to happen. If you go into the goal, go into the activity with that goal, you're probably not going to last too long in the activity because you're going to feel like you're not getting a result, But if you do it right, you should be able to get a lot more appointments. Okay, so let me give you some reference on my own statistics, right? We spend a lot of money on advertising. That's what we do. That's what we do for our clients. That's what we do for our business. We started an email strategy. January 24. Since January 1st, 2024, email has been the cheapest source of appointment for our business. I think I mentioned that in a different video before too. It's important to know though, email has been the cheapest source of appointments for us. So like what we've done is we've taken our dollars and cents that we're spending on ads and we've picked up more appointments per month from those same people by just having incubation. That's all we had there, okay? Start with email, then go to text. Just remember, text maximum once a week. Okay, I'm on a list right now that I just unsubscribed from because the guy was emailing me, or texted me, excuse me. He's texting me like 3 times a week. Sometimes he would text me even twice in the same day, okay? And I like this business. I engage with this business. I had to unsubscribe because it was just too much. Because the text is a different layer of consciousness in terms of it's a different layer of a relationship. I'm not so much like consciousness, but it's a different like relationship you have with texting than you do with email, you know? So start now. Start your incubation. We put out a video not too long ago about an email guide, best email guide out there for holistic healthcare providers. That's free. Go check that out. It's a different YouTube video. We just put that out not that long ago. So I'm not going to talk, this video is not talking about how to like make your emails, how to craft them, the frequency, you know, that's a different video. But today we want to go in the mind and understand the conceptualization of the stadium selling and how we're leaving a lot of money on the table by just not having a tank that we can continue to nurture inside of this incubator, right? So I want you to go now, okay? We've been talking for a while together. I want you to go now. If you're already doing, you know, significant revenues and you want us to come and help you with the incubation strategy and maybe even possibly help take some of the marketing off your plate, again, I'll leave that link below. Okay, you can have a conversation. There's no obligation. Leave that there for you. Go there now if it would make sense. Otherwise, I want you to start incubation. I want you to start thinking about how can I start in re-engaging my past patients, my prospective leads? How can I engage with them at scale, 1 to many? And how can we get them over time to become the 3 to 4% that are ready to take action now, so that ultimately we can squeeze more dollars and more juice from the fruit in which we spend ads. So go act now. Okay, the video means nothing if you don't take action on it. Okay, it's disrespectful to watch a video this long, 17 minutes we've been on together, and not take any action. You don't deserve that. You yourself need to take action on it, otherwise it's not going to change for you. But I promise you, if you develop a holding tank, you will see more juice. And by that way, I'm out, and I'll see you in the next one.